second time in 2 months, officials of the Nigeria Labour Congress are storming the National Secretariat of the Labour Party to demand the immediate resignation of the national chairman of the party, Mr. Julius Abure. Security men are on ground to ensure that there is no breach of peace. The NLC members chant solidarity songs at the gate of the Secretariat as they did not have access to the premises. They attempt to force themselves into the premises but were resisted by the police officers who were joined by some party supporters. The chaotic scene is immediately doused by the policemen using tear gas to disperse the protesters.
The tenure of Abure has expired by the 10th of this month, and there's no way we will allow vacuum. And the stakeholders unanimously decided to set up a national transition committee whose duty is only to conduct elections, congresses from the ward level to local government level to state levels, and it will culminate into a national convention that will be free, fair and transparent.
However, the union leaders refused to leave the area. The presidential candidate of the party, Mr. Peter Obi, along with party officials and members, including Senator Iweti Kingibe, came to meet the NLC officials.
They shouldn't disperse them again. These people who are outside are members of the family who we must reconcile with. We must all sit down in the table and decide the future of our family. And that's what we are doing.
From what we have witnessed today, it appears certainly it is either we find our way forward or we make our way forward. This I assure you.
Mr. Peter Obi was at the Secretariat to meet with the National Working Committee of the party. The union leaders are hoping that the necessary steps will be taken to address the crisis for the party to stay focused on the forthcoming governorship elections in Edo and Ondo states, as well as the 2027 general elections.
Okay, so there you go. Welcome back. So yes, those are some of the issues that we'll talk about this morning. We've got Mr. Abdulwaheed Omar here with us. He is the chairman of the National Transition Committee. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much.
We had to change from acting to chairman.
Yes.
Why not acting? Why chairman?
No, the whole transition committee is in acting capacity because it will only carry out the duties of conducting elections from ward level to local government to states, and then it will now come down to conducting a national convention of the party where national officers will be elected and will hand over when we are done. Okay,
but tactically it's not correct. It's not wrong. So chairman acting, but you prefer chairman.
Okay, thank you.
All right. The last time people saw you was when you were president of NLC. So yes. I said, oh, Omar is back on the beat now, in the manner of speaking. Yeah. What have you been up to ever since then, though?
Well, basically, I've been in retirement, but I do some little farming.
So are you out of retirement now with this?
Well, it is a call to duty, so I had to respond.
But how do you feel? Because I do remember in 2012, at some point, there was at a point when you were trying to call a strike over. You were insisting that government needed to implement the fuel subsidy report. Today, fuel subsidy is gone, and at the same breath too, you were also talking about the poor implementation of the minimum wage, which issues that I was still grappling with today. At that time, it was 18,000 naira. Yeah. So what are your thoughts now, looking at how we're dealing with fuel subsidy and minimum wage?
Well, I think my thoughts are that government, in the first instance, I think I must have to say, made a serious mistake in rushing into removing the fuel subsidy. Perhaps what government did not understand was that they too will be affected, and everything will be affected. And therefore, it is not just impacting on workers, it is going to impact on every sector of the economy.
But for minimum wage, I know that government says, look, we're going to consult. OPS, some of them are insisting on 60, 62. FG say we're going to consult with governors. Governors have said, look, we can't pay anything beyond maybe in the realm of 60. Even that 60, 62, so I'm saying no, it's not possible. What do you see happening? Because we don't see government meeting labor's actual demands.
Well, I wish to see some increased transparency in governance. That is all I need to say.
How do you mean specifically?
If people in government are sincere, they know that it is not a difficult thing to pay much higher than the 62,000 naira they are proposing. But if you go deep into checking what is happening in government, you discover that even frivolous things are being paid for and nobody complains. And cost of governance itself is so high in Nigeria that if we bring it to size, it is going to help so much into paying all these salaries to workers.
But Comrade, some of the arguments that some people have told us here is that, yes, they understand inflationary figures, double digits, challenging for everybody, but I think they call it wage, we're confusing wage, salary, we're putting everything in one sweep. And they say, look, that may not necessarily be the way we ought to go. That the argument of OPS is that if you insist on, even if it's 100 or 150 or 200,000 naira, several people, private sector, cannot pay that as minimum.
You see, that's also about the deceit. Now, with the removal of minimum wage, go and check in the market. The private sector, what they do is to sell their goods and services. And the cost or the prices are not as they were before the removal of fuel subsidy. So why should anybody complain? Yes.
Well, you haven't quite addressed the question that Chamberlain is raising, which is about, and I know that's not the that's not the conversation was at, but we can always add it to it, which is about the fact that salaries and wages and they don't mean the same thing.
They don't mean the same thing.
You agree that they don't mean the same thing?
No, I agree they don't mean the same thing because, of course, wages normally are not paid necessarily paid at a monthly basis and so on. And also there are other things that are attracted by salaries which are not attracted by wages and so on. But you just put them together to mean the same thing, to mean that, look, whatever any worker, the minimum any worker should earn within a given period, say a month, should not be less than this. That's the meaning of a minimum wage.
So the reason why people have said that is what is causing the confusion, not just confusion now, but it causes the conflict every time we're about to review a minimum wage, is that when we think about wages, we confuse it with salary, or we lump them up with salaries, and as such, increasing the minimum wage always has an effect, a spiral effect on salaries, which always makes it very difficult for governments to be able to pay.
Okay, maybe in Nigeria, the way we operate here, the vast majority of people who earn living through payments by employers are salaries. So even if you remove the word wages, I will be very comfortable.
Will it not be
minimum salary?
Yeah.
Because majority of the people is salary they take, not wages.
Will it not be better for us to actually, and for even the people, because the idea is that we seek to protect the most vulnerable of people. There's people at the very bottom of the ladder, blue-collar workers. Will it not make more sense for us to see how we can go back to the wages format in which our people can earn hourly, and then people can recommend or seek their services on an hourly basis? They work somewhere, put in so many hours. When they're done, they find other jobs. Wouldn't that also have an effect on productivity?
I think that is good also. But even then, you must have to also be talking about minimum. Even in other countries where they earn wages based on hourly inputs, they are always calculated with minimum and maximum.
Yes, of course. I mean, I've never heard of maximum. But people can earn as much as they want to earn.
Of course, yes. The minimum is always the bottom line.
Yes. The question is, why is it so difficult for us to have that conversation from that perspective?
Yeah, but perhaps it should be for another day. But we are now talking about the minimum a worker should earn within a month. And it doesn't just come up out of the blues. It is a result of analysis, careful analysis. What is the minimum somebody with a wife and 2 or 3 kids can use to maybe for a period of 1 month? A bag of rice now, even maize, is about 75,000 now.
Yeah, but comrade, the point is that, I mean, yes, that's a stark reality that we're faced with, but to address that, that's why the question Mark was talking about why don't Labour take a look at it from that perspective on an hourly basis? If we make that point and then we implement it, you have people who are moonlighting, I mean, doing certain other jobs, and then you're getting more income from separate other places as opposed to waiting for one.
I agree, but perhaps that has to do with the whole of the policy of government. But I believe
but Labour can make a point.
It is even going to be better for the workers.
So why is Labour not championing that?
Because it is not in place. If government introduces that, of course, it is going to be acceptable by Labour.
So would there be anything wrong if Labour were to make that point? Because since 2012, you were arguing about poor implementation of 18,000 naira.
Yes.
States were not even implementing.
Yes.
And now, states are even struggling, according to them, to pay 30,000. So many states never pay this so-called minimum wage, even when Labour agrees on something.
Well, as I told you earlier, it's just deceit in most cases. I'm telling you that because it is workers that gets the analysis of the income and expenditure of government. So it will not be a surprising thing for us to know that certainly there is enough money to be able to pay minimum wage to Nigerian workers and also do other things.
I hear you, comrade, but I think the overarching point which we tend to hear now is Labour appears to be doing the same thing, the same style, the same argument, but they want a different result.
No, but not a different result. What we are arguing is about paying somebody the minimum that can take him through a month. It's not a different argument.
Yeah, but the reality is, if you're looking for people, companies who can pay that amount that Labour is asking, the private sector folks are saying, this cannot happen. Because if you now make it a national, it means everyone must comply. They'll tell you to achieve that, they have to retrench, which is not what Labour is asking for.
No, it's not what we're asking for. We strongly believe that this is doable. When you put the things in the right perspective, they are doable. And this issue you are talking about wages, of course, it will be better for Nigerian workers because if I work for you in the channels here, maybe you give me 5 hours and you say you'll be paying me 5,000 naira or 2,000 naira per hour. When I put in my 5 hours, I know I will be free. I can now go to Dangote Sugar or Dangote Cement and do 1 or 2 more hours.
Yeah, but
where you tie somebody down.
I don't remember Labour talking to organized private sector, asking folks, can this work or not? I don't remember that, if Labour does that.
Well, maybe it is time now that they do that.
All right. So let's get to this other part, the Labour Party. Because, I mean, that report which you showed, you led the team who went in there trying to say, Mr. Abure, your time is up. Even though Mr. Abure himself, from the narratives, we tried to get across to his team, but they didn't oblige us. But the arguments which is out there is that, contrary to what you are asking, they think we've just been re-elected. So why should we go?
That's from their own point of view. But from the point of view of we, the Labour Party, and also Nigerians and the law, Abure and his group, I will not say they are in power now. Their tenure had expired effectively by any standard on the 10th of June, 2024. And that's why we did not go there to ask him to resign. In fact, we did not even envisage what happened there. We went there peacefully thinking that because we had sent him letters that your time is up, and we had even been introduced to INEC, that effectively the leadership had changed. So we are waiting for the response of INEC. And we also have
when was this communication to INEC?
I think 2 weeks ago. And what we expected that we would go in there, perhaps if Abure was there to welcome us and say, okay, you are welcome. But on the contrary, what we met there was something else. They gathered thugs and they filled the place before we arrived.
Who gathered thugs?
Yes, Abure and his people gathered thugs, and before we arrived, by the time we arrived there, they locked the gates and they didn't want us to go in. Well, something we thought was going to be a peaceful transition turned out to be what it became. But it's okay. We are always law-abiding people, and we want to make sure that we do it in the best way possible, in the best civil way possible, so that no casualties will be.
There seems to be a major division. We saw the presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, there, and you all spoke. But how about Dr. Alex Oti of Labour Party? He seems to have given Mr. Abure a vote of confidence, saying that they are going to secure, or whatever happens should go through Mr. Abure. Is that right?
No, I have not heard that. I have not heard that from the governor. He said something like that.
That's what we read.
Through Abure.
I communicate.
I don't think that emanated from him.
But are you in touch with him? Is everybody on the same page?
Yeah, what we try to do is to keep all those people in government at bay. That's why we are not even, for now, maybe held any meeting with anybody elected in the political office. Because what we thought was going to be a very smooth transition has now turned out to be violence. And if we had reacted, I think it would have been something different. But we try to keep our calm, because the issue is Abure and his people. This election they are talking about. Let me just tell you exactly what happened. Back in 2022, Abure was never elected into the office of chairman of the Labour Party.
But he was a member of Labour Party.
He was a member of Labour Party. In fact, he was an acting secretary. And he became a secretary. And then when there was a convention and a chairman was elected, after 2 years, there was the demise of that chairman. And it was after his demise that he now worked his way through pleadings and so on, rather than even following the constitution of Labour Party for the deputy to take over, or any of the vice chairmen. As a secretary, he now took over as the chairman. Well, I think he was tolerated by the people then, and then he pleaded also that he should be allowed to complete the tenure of the deceased chairman, which was given to him. But later, when the time was up, Abure didn't want to go. And it was the same pleading that even they went to the National Executive Council and now said, okay, we're extending your tenure by 1 year. Okay, when 1 year now ended, he didn't want to go. When NLC, because NLC is a major stakeholder, and in fact, by the consent judgment of 2018, the judge recognized NLC as the owner of the Labour Party. In fact, right now, the certificate, the original certificate of Labour Party is in the custody of Nigeria Labour Congress.
But they're two different things, yes?
I agree. But NLC, because NLC does not operate directly with the Labour Party or any political party, they have what is called National Political Commission. Whatever NLC wants will be communicated to the commission, and it is the commission that will have interaction with with parties.
Has the commission said anything now?
Yes, it is through the National Commission that has championed. It is the National Commission that championed the coming together of all the major stakeholders of Labour Party, and a summit was held where it was resolved that the National Transition Committee should be put in place with the sole purpose of effecting very good registration system in the party from the grassroots to the national level, and then conducting congresses at the local government, at the ward level, to the local government level, to the states, and then it will now come to culminate to the national convention where national leaders will be elected and will now hand over. And this is what Abure and his group have been avoiding. Like I was saying, in 2018, there was this judgment because the two parties were in court, but they are now decided to withdraw their cases and agreed on a pattern.
2018?
2018.
Which two parties?
That is the Abure faction, and that time with even the late chairman and other people. And on the other hand, NLC and other groups. Now it was when they agreed that we are now forgetting our differences, we chart a way forward. The judge now committed that to judgment and said clearly that they will now come together to do an all-inclusive and expansive national convention.
So only recently, congresses were conducted, led by the chairman, Abure, whom you say his tenure has expired.
Congresses where? That is the question. Congresses were conducted where?
You are not aware of the congresses that were conducted?
There were no congresses at the ward level. There were no congresses at the local government level. There were no congresses at the state level.
So who were those so-called delegates that he said affirmed?
That is the question. In fact, you see, national delegates conference, I mean the convention, National Convention of Labour Party at least, is a huge gathering because you have designated members or participants apart from delegates. And if you check, even the National Executive Council, there are about 119. All of them are members. And if you have all the sitting governors, senators, their deputies, state assembly members, and so on, all of these are supposed to be members or participants at the National Convention. And when you come, all the state executive councils, and each state executive council is at least 33 people. And then all the local government chairmen and secretaries. If you put these ones, there are about 1,300 people. These are all supposed to be members or participants in the National Convention of the party, and also delegates. Now the NEC will determine the number of delegates. Assuming the NEC will say, okay, we don't have money, we'll have only 3. Then you also have 3 times 3, 774. 3 times 36 plus 1. All these are supposed to be participants in the convention of the party. But where this convention, purported convention, took place in Newi, I think was a small hall that could not carry more than 250 people.
So what I am very interested in is that, from all of the political shenanigans that have been going on within the Labour Party, some people are just saying, look, we thought this party by now would be getting its act together. Looking at the outing that it had in the last presidential election, it was a really great outing, an outing that took the country by storm. It was unprecedented, and they nearly succeeded. As a matter of fact, it's still a matter of controversy as to whether or not they succeeded or not because of, what happened with INEC. But that was just how close the Labour Party was to making a statement in the country. Are you willing to throw it away, based on what is currently happening within the political party?
Well, in the first place, let me tell you, of course, yes, Labour Party fared very, very well, but it ought to have fared much better if the level playing ground was given. I was just telling you about participants in the convention. Now there is also among the stakeholder groups, because all the stakeholder groups came together. Among them is also governorship candidates forum. These are aggrieved people, very many of them, because of the way things were manipulated and so on. I don't want to go into even issues of criminality, because they are before the courts now, where the forgeries were involved and so on. So genuine candidates were denied the right to go into contest simply because maybe there was a hand or something. But this is what we are trying to address. I bet you if Labour Party had the right leadership and they did the correct thing, it's not just about, if you notice, and this is one thing also we are going to battle very seriously, to ensure that, to tell Nigerians that the Labour Party is not a sectional party, it's not a religious party, it's a national party. But you have to do a lot in some other places to disabuse people's minds that no, it is not what you are thinking. It's a party, and people have been yearning to come, people have been approaching us and so on. This is what Abure and his group are not ready to do.
Ayo.
One is just wondering, one is just wondering in what way, manner, shape, or form does this help political mentoring for them? I'm asking this question because given the number of young people that came out and supported massively and openly, supported the candidate of your party, and the reactions that have trailed that up until this very moment, one wonders, seeing what is happening in the Labour Party and the issues that you have also raised, how this leads to any learning from them. How does the Labour Party differ from any other political party that the young people are trying to run away from?
Well, in the first place, I beg to disagree that young people are running away from Labour Party.
Said that the Labour Party is the party that they are going to, running away from other political parties.
Oh, yeah, you are very correct. And that is what we are trying to effect. We are trying to make sure that Labour Party belongs to everybody. And therefore, the youth also are very important. We would mobilize them. And they keep trooping. But unfortunately, because of the leadership style of Abure and his people, for whatever reason, what they are after perhaps is not what the party is after. Because every party will strive to expand its territories, will try to make sure that maybe it gets to power, and will try to therefore make sure they implement, those elected will implement their manifesto. But this is not what is happening with Abure and his group. And well, in any case, we have come to the point where there's no going back.
You know, Comrade, still on the same issue, but perhaps from a different perspective, if you will. Now, how is the Labour Party different from other political parties when the same issues that other political parties have, the Labour Party is also having?
Well, in the first place, political parties are differentiated mainly and majorly by their manifestos. You know that Labour Party is a social democratic setting, and the focus is on people and serving the people. Perhaps maybe that's the major difference between Labour Party and other parties. We don't have to maybe have a presidential candidate before we say okay, he will think about what his own agenda. Already, it's a social democratic setting. Any presidential candidate or any candidate at whatever level will have to conform with those social democratic ideals of the party. That is the major difference. You will discover in other parties, perhaps it is the presidential candidate who will decide what will be his agenda, and that is how he will implement it. But in Labour Party, we will make sure that if you are coming in the first place, we have to be sure that it's a credible candidate, and then you also have to abide by the provisions of our manifesto, that it is within the manifestos that you will be able to carve out your own agenda.
You know, there are those who also believe, Comrade, that the candidate, the presidential candidate of your party, was only using the platform just to advance a particular cause, and that at any point he may decide to jettison the Labour Party because at least now there is some significant popularity. If that should happen, there are those who also believe that with that happening, the popularity and the prominence of the Labour Party will dip massively. How do you respond to that?
Well, I appreciate the fact that the leader of the party has really brought in a lot of followership in the party. But at the same time, I do not also envisage that he will abandon the party all of a sudden. But in case he even does, which I don't hope he will, in case he does, that is his own personal belief. Nobody has anything to do with that. But I assure you, the way we are going to operate is openly, is going to attract many more followers to the party. No doubt about that.
You don't think that the withdrawal of Mr. Peter Obi from the Labour Party will affect the fortunes of the party?
No, I said yes, of course. He's a man of integrity, and he's a man of massive followership. But as I said, if in case he does, which I hope he will not, but we will still forge ahead. A Labour Party, perhaps like, if I borrow his own statement on issue of obedience, Labour Party is beyond any individual, because it is the only institutional organization. That's the only organization that is owned and manned by institutions, rather than just other political parties where it is an all-comer thing. That people will join some parties simply because maybe either they had lost elections elsewhere, or they are not given the opportunity to participate or to run for election. But strictly speaking, Labour Party is guided by its own ideology.
You know, going forward, what's the relationship between the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Labour Party? There are those, particularly members of the Labour Party, who had hitherto said that the NLC should maintain its space as an advocacy organization, while the Labour Party maintains its status as a political party. What's the relationship between the Labour Party and the NLC going forward?
I think, like I said earlier, Nigeria Labour Congress is an entity for Nigerian workers. It does not also relate directly with any political party, not even the Labour Party, though it is the Nigeria Labour Congress that established the Labour Party, registered the Labour Party. The relationship is that when it comes to the Labour Party, then Nigeria Labour Congress is just a stakeholder. And because it does not relate directly to Labour political parties, it now set up what is called National Political Commission of Nigeria Labour Congress. So whatever NLC will do, or any message or whatever NLC will want to see from the Labour Party, it passes it through the National Political Commission. So, and that is, even in this instance, it is the Political Commission that championed the convening of the Stakeholders Summit that came together to say, okay, all of us are aggrieved. We know that this man's tenure has ended. He doesn't want to go. We have done everything for him to go, including even the agreement or the settlement that was brokered by the Independent National Electoral Commission. That, okay, go and come together to conduct national convention. But Abure also circumvented that. And
okay, so just quick one before we go. Why is it that, because the position of the national chairman reserved for Labour Party and TUC, according to your constitution, is that not the case?
No, it's not the case.
What's the case?
The case is that NLC and TUC have designated membership of the what do you call, not the National Executive Council. If they are to go into the National Executive Council, they have to be now assigned. But they are designated members of the Board of Trustees.
All right.
Not
okay. All right, Comrade Abdulwaheed Omar is the chairman, National Transition Committee of NLC, trying to get the Labour Party back in order. Thank you for coming on, and we wish that your party succeeds in
Thank you very much.
Whatever it is that they want to succeed with. Business Morning on Sunrise, it is up next with John Mekwa.